I'm going to tell you why Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles will win you over if you weren't a fan of the original game. Let's go. Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon, and I bounced off of Final Fantasy Tactics 2 times over the years. When I was a kid, it was because game too hard, and me too bad. As a young adult, it was because despite the improved localization of the War of the Lions on PSP, I still struggled to get into the story enough to make the challenge feel worth it. But, third time's the charm. The Ivalice Chronicles breaks down the barrier for me in multiple ways, and it's given me the experience with it I feel like I've been missing all these years. And it does that in one really simple way. Let's get into it. Oh, and thanks to Square Enix for providing the code. Really appreciate it. In the original PS1 release, you would absolutely be forgiven for not getting into the story. The original localization was, well, it was of its time, let's say, which is a nice way of saying it's not super great. For me, I was never really into stories of political intrigue, and Tactics is definitely a politics-first type of story. Not to say that there's no character work being done, but it takes a backseat to the political machinations. Combine that style of storytelling with gameplay that was way over my head at the time, and you have a recipe for a game Brandon was never going to like. As time went on, I read more and more about how much people seemed to love this game, and I couldn't help but be intrigued. What was I missing? But it remained a nut I was just unable to crack. When the PSP version was released, it felt like the best opportunity for me to try again. After all, the localization was drastically improved, and I was well into my video game writing snobbery era, so I was there day one. And much to my delight, the writing was significantly better. It was almost Shakespearean. But I wasn't too far into the story when I remembered I never liked reading Shakespeare. Yeah, I'm a sorry excuse for an English major. So once again, I found myself putting Final Fantasy Tactics aside. So what does the Ivalice Chronicles do that changes my perspective? It's really simple. Voice work. That might sound too simplistic, and I get that. The game is the same. It maybe reads a bit better, and it has difficulty options to make it more palatable for people like me who don't love it when games kick our butts. But what took this story from its not for me status to being one of the best I've played this year is the addition of voices. Let me explain. First things first, the performances are next level. We're talking major motion picture caliber, and that's not an exaggeration. And they would have to be in order to pull off this dialogue. Don't misunderstand, the dialogue is brilliant, but it is not, how do I put it? It's not written how you and I speak. I've used the word Shakespearean multiple times so far in this video, and for good reason. The word choices in the Ivalice Chronicles aren't archaic. You're not going to be stuck puzzling over the meaning of words like mobled or foison. But there's an artistic, Shakespearean flourish to the way characters speak. And this is why I struggled with Shakespeare in college. See, reading silently and listening use different parts of the brain, and different people can benefit from different ways of absorbing information. Reading Shakespeare in a book is difficult for me because the combination of archaic expressions and unfamiliar sentence structure keeps me from absorbing the story as much as I otherwise might. But I didn't know that at the time. I thought I just didn't like Shakespeare. However, when I finally saw Shakespeare performed live, it completely changed my perspective. Suddenly, I had more than the words on the page. I had intonation, visual context. These filled in gaps that the language alone left empty. I could watch the play and actually understand what was going on. It was an experience that genuinely changed how I felt about Shakespeare in general. I've had that same sort of shift in my perspective with Final Fantasy Tactics thanks to the Ivalice Chronicles. By putting these actors behind these words, I'm suddenly involved in the plot in ways I never would have been before. I can feel the nuance behind a character like Dice Dark because of the nuance actor Ben Starr puts into his performance. I can better understand the earnest enthusiasm of Mustadio because of how Harry McIntyre plays him. As a quick aside, whenever I see the name Mustadio, I always want to say Mustachio, which in my mind is just Mustadio with an absolutely killer mustache. In my opinion, a much cooler character. Nothing against Mustadio, he's great, but he really should have had a mustache and been named Mustachio. Anyway. Point is, these performances are transformative to the story. I can't speak for any other language, but the way these characters are portrayed in English elevates the story to an entirely new level. Now I'm not just mashing buttons as I speed read my way through the dialogue in order to get to the next battle. Every scene feels important, and I'm finding so much more character development than I expected to find in a story that's so politically focused. That's the other thing, actually, that kind of kept me from enjoying tactics before. Because the story is so political, and because the tactical RPG genre in general has such a focus on political intrigue as the focus of their stories, I just wasn't able to connect with it. The actors have broken down that barrier by giving me characters I legitimately care about. There's nuance in things that I had originally read as black and white, like Rams's relationship with his brothers or the way Delita treats him post-flashback. It's clear a great amount of care was taken with the voice work, and it's improved my experience to the point that I've just spent several minutes telling you about why I think this, above all else, is what makes the Ivalice Chronicles the definitive version of this classic video game. I should mention the other things I like about it too, the other pillar that kind of elevates this game to entirely new levels that make it absolutely worth your time. The quality of life improvements are great, of course. Being able to easily see the turn order at all times is fantastic. The ability to undo movement after you've locked it in is a godsend. And being able to fast forward through a huge string of enemy turns is great for someone like me who's just antsy to implement my strategy before I forget what I wanted to do next. The difficulty options are excellent as well. Normal felt maybe slightly easier than I remember the original game playing, or maybe I'm just better at video games. And the easy mode called Squire makes this a game that basically anybody can play without much frustration. Not to say that you'll never lose a battle on easy, I did. But you're far less likely to struggle if, like me, tactical RPGs are sort of new to you. And the biggest reason that the Ivalice Chronicles is the best way to play this game is because it offers you the ability to play the original game if you want to. This is something that I honestly would love to see every remaster offer. If you so choose, you can play Final Fantasy Tactics without any of the Ivalice Chronicles fanfare. The original game is preserved here if you're a purist. Now, they opted not to go with the fairly subpar PlayStation 1 script, which was definitely the right move, but it's otherwise an intact version of the PS1 game. This is genius. Please, developers, if you're going to make significant changes to a game via a remaster, give us the OG game along with it. It solves so many problems all at once. It's also a joy to play handheld, just as an aside. I'm playing the PS5 version, but with my Portal, I'm able to recline on the couch and grind out some random battles to my heart's content. It really turns into sort of a cozy experience, if you ignore the fact that you're essentially massacring a bunch of people and animals to gain job points, or unless you find that sort of thing cozy, in which case, I'm calling the police. Anyway, this game is a freaking delight, and I'm so glad I finally found a way to enjoy it. I can get why people have been so in love with it for so long. The gameplay is super engaging once you get past that initial learning curve, but I never would have gotten there without the additions the Ivalice Chronicles made. This is yet another case in point for my argument that English voiceover really matters in video games. Would I have connected with this if it only had Japanese voiceovers or no voices at all? No. I can pretty much promise I would not have. The English voice work provided me an avenue to be able to enjoy this game, and I am extremely grateful for that. What do you think? Are you picking this up when it launches this week? Let me know down in the comments. A couple quick things. I have channel memberships, so if you're able to support me and the channel that way, I really appreciate it. And thanks as always to my members. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate you so much. Check out my podcast as well, the JRPG Pursuit, if you like JRPGs. We have new episodes every Wednesday. Link is in the description. And with that, until next time. Bye.